Hey, I'm Brett with Von Drescher Lawn and Landscape, and today we're going to go through this article from Turf Magazine, and it's called "Understanding the Soil Test Analysis Report." All right, so it's a phenomenal article, and it's going to go through everything that's on an average soil test report, and so we're just going to break it down. So, cation exchange capacity. This is the first result that appears on many soil analysis reports is the cation exchange capacity. It is complicated and difficult to understand, but it's an important part of the soil science. It's included in soil analysis because it's necessary for professional turf managers. All right, so the CEC measures your soil's capacity to hold nutrients. Soils with high CEC will retain nutrients better than low CEC soils. The results are then used to judge the potential fertility of a site. In short, the higher CEC, the better the nutrient holding capability. So, soil analysis results denoting low CEC soils, such as sandy soils, will need fertilization adjusted to deliver less fertilizer per application but perform more times per year. And so around here we have sandy soils, and so you want to break up the fertilization. The grass is growing. You want to fertilize less more often. Sandy soils don't have as many negative CEC charges to hold nutrients, so they will need to be approached. So that's the CEC. That's the first thing you're going to see on an analysis, and I'm going to show you that's where it is right there. The next thing you're going to see is active pH and buffer pH. Soil pH is a very important result to understanding the soil analysis report. The soil pH scale is measured from 0 to 14. A reading of 7 is in the middle of the scale and is considered to be neutral. Anything below 7 is acidic, and anything above 7 is basic or alkaline. The move from 6 to 7 means that the soil is now 10 times less acidic than it was at 6. A movement from 5 to 7 means it is now 100 times less acidic than it was at 5. The letters pH mean potential hydrogen. And then the second reading you'll see, buffer pH, is performed in a lab and it measures the soil's resistance to change. Simplified soils high in organic matter or clay require more lime to correct acidity problems than sandy soils with the same pH reading. To explain them further, a reading of 5 on the pH scale is the same for all types of soil. However, to correct the pH and bring it back to 7 would require differing amounts of lime depending on what elements are in the soil. That is what the buffer pH determines. A home soil test doesn't determine this, a professional soil test will. And so we're looking at a soil analysis. We get ours from Spectrum Analytic. It's through Site 1. You can get it through the state, NC State. You can send it off to the state. We just find we get it faster through Site 1, but it does cost us $25 to send it off. So the pH of this is 6.6, and it has a buffer of 7.2. This is a Bermuda grass lawn, and it recommends no lime, so it recommends not to change the pH. Correcting pH problems. Acidic soil, low pH correction. Limestone is used to make soils less acidic and bring pH number up. So if this number was low and we need to bring it up, the soil test would tell us to put down lime, and it would tell us how much lime per 1,000 square foot. Alkaline soil pH correction. So if the soil report indicates the soil is alkaline or above 7, using sulfur or aluminum sulfate will reduce the soil alkalinity. Sulfur is an age-old product but may take months to be effective. Sulfur requires soil microbes to break it down first. Aluminum sulfate works immediately and is what most professionals will use. All these products can burn the grass, so water them in well after applying. Stop real quick and talk about soil pH. This is from NC State Extension Gardener Handbook, Chapter 9, Lawns. All right, and it's talking about lime, but most soils in North Carolina are acidic and just right for centipede grass, which requires a pH close to 5.5. So this is a 6.6. If it was centipede, we would be using sulfur to bring that pH down, but Bermuda is okay with the 6.6. So centipede grass requires close to 5.5. Most turf grasses, however, prefer a soil pH between 6.5 and 7 for optimum nutrition availability. So that's a little quick overview of the pH. And then another result is the macronutrients. Macronutrients are the nutrients needed by grass in the greatest amounts. They're usually listed first in a soil analysis. The big three are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So we're going to go over those. Nitrogen. Nitrogen is the element used in the largest amount of turf grass. When spread in bag fertilizer, it is the amount of N per 1,000 square feet. That is the most important to note because fertilizer applications are based on this number. Nitrogen is occasionally but not always tested in labs. When it is tested, the soil analysis results will be shown on a scale from very low to excessively high. So in our report, it's just going to always give you the normal suggestion in a year for nitrogen. And so this is Bermuda grass, 4 to 6 pounds per thousand. This is zoysia grass, 1.5 to 2.5 pounds per thousand. All right, and so what is nitrogen? All right, so look, the reason it's not often tested is because nitrogen is so unstable in the soil. A hard rain, hot weather, even mowing the lawn and leaving the clippings on the lawn will affect nitrogen levels. Levels of nitrogen fluctuate rapidly, and the soil analysis would not likely be accurate by the time you receive the results. And so they usually just tell you a suggestion of how much you need to be putting down a year versus how much is actually in the soil. Nitrogen, this is what nitrogen does. Nitrogen is as important for grass growth and chlorophyll production. Excessive growth is usually a problem when using the wrong fertilizer, too much immediately available nitrogen, or applying more fertilizer than needed. Phosphorus. Phosphorus represents the second number on the bag of fertilizer. A bag of 1438 contains 3% of phosphorus by weight. Established lawn grasses don't require a lot of phosphorus, of added phosphorus, unless the soil test says the soil requires it. So it's requiring 0.25 per thousand, but let me go in here and note one thing about centipede grass. It grows well on acidic soils and it does not tolerate traffic, compaction, high soil pH, high phosphorus. And so if you're using a fertilizer that's got phosphorus in it on centipede, you're doing it to the detriment of the centipede and not to the help of the centipede. That's just a bonus free of charge. And here's a good thing. Like think about this. If you're fertilizing centipede and it's got phosphorus in there, centipede doesn't like phosphorus. And what is very important to know about phosphorus is that it is relatively immobile in the soil and almost never leaches out after it's applied. Do it to immobile state. Start to fertilize high in peat and phosphorus, often used on newly seeded lawns to ensure P is directly within the reach of the very short root system. So once you have high phosphorus, it's in there. Next key ingredient macronutrient is potassium. Potassium represents the third number on the bag of a fertilizer. A bag of 1438 would contain 8% potassium by weight. The understanding and the use of potassium has changed in recent years as scientists better understand how plants use it. Now we know turf grass uses far more potassium than we realized. One of your lawn's biggest enemies is stress. Potassium decreases stress and helps turf grass endure tough conditions. Additional applications of potassium have been a lifesaver for many sports fields by increasing the turf's ability to withstand traffic, heat, and drought problems of the summer. Potassium, we put down an actual pound per thousand at the end of the season in September, October timeframe in round 6 on all our lawns, and it's granular. So we know we're getting a true pound per thousand square foot. And then both of our fertilizers have potassium in it. Bermuda and zoysia, we're fertilizing right now with a 30, or we fertilizing some with a 30-08. So it's got 8% potassium. And then our Centipede St. Augustine fertilizer is 15-015, and so it contains 15% potassium. Centipede St. Augustine stressed a little more, so potassium really helps cope with that stress. Soil analysis results for micronutrients: boron, copper, iron. Iron is the most common micronutrient to be deficient in soils. Deficiency problems in most cases occur when soil pH is high. So the pH is high, and the deficiency problems in most cases occur when soil pH is high, above 7. In alkaline soils, the iron becomes bound up in a form that the roots can't take it up. It's also the most common micronutrient to be included in fertilizer. Iron chlorosis is a term used to describe iron deficiency. The symptom is pale green color. Iron is not a part of chlorophyll, but without iron, grass will not produce any. If the pH is high, the additions of granular iron, such as ironite. All right, let me stop about iron. So iron chlorosis is a term used to describe iron deficiency. Iron chlorosis, a yellowing of plant leaves caused by a condition that causes plant leaves to turn yellow. So in the spring, when the grass is starting to green up and your centipede is yellow, it could be because it has an iron deficiency because the pH is high. So that's why soil test is is good to do, especially when you're seeing the centipede come out of dormancy, bright yellow rings around it, yellow patches in the yard. It might be due to a high pH binding up the iron in the soil. So the iron is a quick fix. To hit it with iron would green it back up. But the true problem is bringing that pH down. If it's above 7 and you got to bring it down to a 5.5, you're going to use sulfur to bring it down. A note, iron causes rust stains on concrete, so make sure you rinse off sidewalks, driveways after spreading. Another macronutrient is magnesium. Magnesium is an essential element because it is part of the chlorophyll molecule. Chlorophyll is what gives the grass its green color. Without sufficient magnesium, grass will appear to suffer from chlorosis. Sandy soils are most likely to experience magnesium deficiencies. So, another problem that can produce a magnesium deficiency is low pH soils. Soils that have a pH lower than 7 are likely to develop magnesium problems. The lower the pH number, the more deficient the magnesium will be. If the soil test shows a deficiency in magnesium, then applications of dolomitic limestone will help. Dolomitic limestone contains both lime and magnesium, and it will raise the pH, delivering needed magnesium. So, so a lack of iron or a high pH, can cause chlorosis, or low pH can cause chlorosis. pH is key to getting the magnesium and the iron back into the soil. Or, yeah, manganese, and then we're going to go for sulfur. Researchers tell us that sulfur is rarely deficient because of acid rain. Acid rain is a term used when smoke from coal was burned and brought back to the earth in rain. The amount of sulfur received each year in the rain exceeds the annual turf requirement for the nutrient. Researchers tell us that 90% of the grasses in the U.S. get sulfur in this manner. However, acid rain may not be enough to correct high pH soils. So if you got a high pH soil, the acid rain is going to give you enough sulfur, but it's not enough to correct your pH. When there is a sulfur problem, the symptom will be yellowing of grass, a condition that won't usually change even with an application of nitrogen. Sulfur can then be directly applied to using spreader fertilizer. So in the spring, your centipede is yellow. It could either be sulfur, magnesium, or iron, and it's all tied to the pH level. However, acid rain may not be enough to correct high soil pH when the sulfur problem and the symptom will be yellowing of grass, a condition that won't usually change even without. Sulfur can be directly applied using a spreader fertilizer. So you want to bring the pH down, you use sulfur. You want to bring the pH up. Organic matter. Quality and amount of organic matter is more important than most people might think. Most lawns will contain 2 to 3% organic matter. It may seem like a small amount, but consider the lawn with 6% is viewed as high in organic matter. Organic matter is necessary for healthy soil and healthy lawns. Something you may not be familiar with is organic matter is the primary food source for microorganisms. Soil microbes exist in tremendous numbers and break down soil elements into a form that can be taken up by plant roots. They are also important that without microorganisms, plant life would not exist. So the microbes feed off of the organic matter. NC State suggests that if you're fertilizing your lawn and mowing it regularly, you're going to get enough organic matter already put back into your soil. And so here's a soil sample, the soil pH. Here's the buffer. Here's the results of pound per acre available nutrient, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium. And then it shows high, adequate, and low the level. And then down here, it's going to tell you how much lime you need to be putting down, how much nitrogen you need to be putting down, how much phosphorus, how much potassium, how much magnesium. No magnesium, 0.75, and 0.25 of phosphorus. So the 0.7, I wouldn't put any phosphorus in because once it's down, it's down. 0.75 of potassium, which we would get. All right, so our Bermuda zoysia fertilization program, we're going to get about 3 to 4 pounds of nitrogen down there per year, and we're going to get over a pound of potassium down because our fertilizer has potassium in it, and then in round 6 we put down 1 pound of potassium per 1,000 square foot for all our loans. So I hope this kind of gives you a good understanding of a soil test. If you're having issues with your loan, it would be good to get a soil test and then go from there, because it's going to tell you exactly what you need to be putting down to correct it. If you got any questions or we can help you out in any way, let us know.